before this wonderful CME. After a long time, we are conducting a CME in Angamani. It's our pleasure and privilege to have a CME here. And today we have a very special and host guest, Dr. Babu from Silverline Hospital, Cochin. So to introduce and to chair the session, I welcome Senior Physician Angamani, Dr. Thomas Ford, Banana Hospital. Please.
The management of diabetes was quite easy till a few years back, when all these developments occurred, newer insurance came, and all the diabetologists came in, and then it was all the physicians who were managing them. It was so simple, it was so easy. And of course, there are a lot of changes, which are actually very fast changes in the field of endocrinology, and every day new things are coming, the insurance, the mode of administration, the mode of management, everything together. Diabetes become a real super specialty now. And the topic of today is management of diabetes mellitus in a super specialty, in a tertiary level setup. The speaker is Dr. Babu. Dr. Babu does not need an introduction. Dr. Babu is quite well known to most of you. And he's a very good speaker, very well prepared, and very exact details, exactness in his talk, many times observed as especially quality in. He is the director of Silverline Hospital at Cochin, and had his training in endocrinology at Andhra Institute of Medical Sciences. He also underwent training at Mayo Clinic, USA. And also has a management degree from there, from the US. I welcome Dr. Babu and ask him to deliver this speech.
Thank you, sir, for that very warm introduction.
Pleasure and privilege to be back here in Angamani. You may have some. It's over a year ago, I think, when I came here for my last talk. I think I'd given it in the other call. Now I chose another topic for today. Reason being, thought we had been doing too much of data crunching, number crunching, and beyond a point, to me, I get fatigued with a lot of these things. So I thought, for a change, I will share some of the data from our own hospital. And we do only diabetes, thyroid, and endocrinology. So I thought that way, it from a more practical point of view, we will get a sense on, whether all the things that we keep discussing about, in the journals and otherwise, is that what we see in real life? That's something that we can put to test by looking at our data. And also, like to share with you what we do in Silverline. Now, what I've done in Silverline really is that I've spent some time at Mayo Clinic in the United States, which I consider one of the cutting-edge hospitals in be it any department. They're I consider them about 50 years ahead of our times. So what I've done is, the time I spent, I looked at some of the things that we could take back home, the good things. But inherently, a lot of differences between their system and ours. For example, they use a lot of RNPs, called registered nurse practitioners, who can actually prescribe. The reason being, if you get an appointment with an endocrinologist, it takes at least 6 months. That's how long a person has to wait. And an endocrinologist there sees only 5 patients a day max. That itself is like a big thing for him. But what he does with the data is what is outstanding, because he sees 5 patients a day, and maybe net 20-30 patients a week. And at the end of the year, he has a paper, or he'll probably be presenting a paper based on his experience with, let's say, 200, 300 or 400 people. And ultimately it boils down to the data that they capture. And that's where we are failing, is what I feel. So that way, there were a lot of differences, inherent differences, but at the same time, there were a lot of good things that I thought we could bring back home, which I did. And so I'll just share with you some of the things that we've done in Silverline, which I've kind of taken partly from Mayo Clinic. The existence on 1st of May, so it's roughly around 8 months or so as of today. And I'll tell you roughly how we are constituted. There is me, who functions as the endocrinologist, and we have 3 physicians. There's Dr. Lakshmi, who's done our American board from the United States. And there's Dr. Kenny Thomas, who's done his MD from CMC Ludhiana. There's Dr. Deepak, who's done his diabetes and diploma in diabetes, and he's with me. Then we have, okay, we're up. So this is what our hospital looks like, and it's located in Kadavandra, very close to the traffic signal. It's probably the 8th building onto what is called the KP Valon Road. It's only about 50 meters from the traffic signal per se, on the main road itself. Next slide. As of, this is data as of yesterday. We saw something like 5,626 patients in our OPD from 1st of May. And if you look at the demographics, I don't think it's startling to you, because this is something that we see in our day-to-day practice also. The maximum percentage is between 50 to 59 is what I've seen, and 40 to 49 also we have like a fair representation. But nowadays we are starting to see more of 30 to 39, slowly, and I won't be surprised if this number starts to nudge up in course of time. And 60 to 69 also a fair contribution from that age group. Then it starts waning, as would be expected. Next slide. This is the male to female preponderance, if you want to call it that. And I'm actually happy to see this data really. I mean, I was not aware. I just took a look at it today because it got ready only this morning. And we have 52% of female patients being brought to our OP, which speaks very highly of Kerala. I'm very proud to say this, because I was in Chennai last Sunday, and we had a special symposium for it was called Endocrinology in Women, or in Women's Health, and a lot of debates. There were like eminent women endocrinologists, gynecs, and all that, each like really an authority in their own right. And then they were talking about the women's health issues, and more and more what came out was that generally data, hard data shows that women don't take as many drugs as men, because they tend to somehow get sidelined. Women don't come as often to the hospital as men, because again, for reasons that that males are more important members in society and all that. So a lot of data we discussed, and so at the end of the day, I thought women were getting a fair deal in overall rest of the country. But when you look at this data, it's quite heartening to see that a lot of women are also being brought, and they are also equally being concerned about their health. And I think it goes to also show that males are caring about their women. That also goes to show, credit to our males as well. Next slide. So this is a breakup of between, now out of this 5,700, how many of them were diabetic and how many of them were non-diabetic. Non-diabetic means other endocrine problems, including thyroid. As you can see, 72% diabetic, 28.6% others, which would include thyroid, polycystic ovaries, short stature, etc., etc. And again, goes to re-emphasize. I remember when I joined as a trainee in endocrinology, the people who used to tell me that always look at your portfolio like this. Diabetes is like your bread, thyroid is like your butter, and everything else is like jam, because diabetes is the bulk of what we do, and this data just testifies the same thing. Next slide. Out of the diabetic patients, as is expected, 98% are type 2, only 2% is type 1. Again, if you look at data from elsewhere in the world, they put it anywhere between 2 to 5%, and our data almost corresponds with the global data. Then we looked at type 1s, type 1s. I mean, the numbers are not great. We have like 30 or 40 type 1s in all, and out of that we try to look at how many of them had lipidemia, mixed hyperlipidemia, 25% of them. Majority had hypertension, 45% of them. Nephropathy, 25% of them. 5% only neuropathy. I'm not surprised by that data, because we find, I mean, maybe it's because we start looking for them. Nephropathy we screened earlier, and neuropathy. The problem with neuropathy that I find, and I think we need to find some answers for this, is that when you do a vibrometer testing, it is observer dependent, highly observer dependent. The problem is, if there are two nurses trying to do a vibrometer, it depends on how attentive the patient is to vibration, and it also depends on how attentive the podiatrist is in picking these things up. So it's highly observer dependent, giving us a lot of problems. So are we underestimating the neuropathy here? We need to have some standards, and I think this is going to plague us forever until we find a sure-shot way of quantifying neuropathy. But studies have shown that the biothesiometry or this vibration threshold is much better than doing a monofilament, because monofilament, again, you say 10-gram monofilament, it has to buckle at some point and all that, but again, there's a lot of problems with the monofilament testing. So we put all our money on vibrometer. Now vibrometer is turning to be another big headache, because it's highly observer dependent. I've seen this happen. I get we have 2 to 3 podiatry nurses. When one nurse does it, I'm getting it as like moderate neuropathy. And I know for a fact that this guy looks like he's got severe neuropathy, so I send them back and get it done. And they come back as severe neuropathy. So again, so I'm not sure about this neuropathy status as such, whether that's the final thing, or whether we need to go and refine that data. Next slide. In type 2, we looked at type 2. What you're seeing again is that majority of them, 44% of them had hypertension. 33% of them dyslipidemia. Goes with the global data, nothing different. But what I found striking really here was that, again, the neuropathy part, nephropathy, 11%. Okay, I mean, that's also sort of in keeping with the global data. But the neuropathy, for some reason, again, it's only 4%. I would have expected much more. So somewhere, I think there is a observer dependency problem here, and we need to try and find a sure-shot way. I don't think anybody has a clear answer to this, because the podiatry nurses that are with me, some of them I send them for training in Amrita, and then some of them are trained elsewhere. They've all come and they exchange notes. So I don't think it's in terms of the technique, but it is in terms of how you explain this thing to the patient, how the patient responds to the vibratory stimuli. It's all very complex. So I have a feeling that's why we are not getting what we expect, because I expect neuropathy to be 40%, 45% easily. We are only getting 4%, 5%. So there's something wrong with that data there, obviously.